Biכורים, Perek Gimel, Mishnah Aleph. The Perek now goes back to the original subject of Biכורים and starts by asking the question, Keitzad mafrishin ha-Biכורים? How does a farmer separate his Biכורים from the rest of his produce? The Mishnah tells us, Yored Odom b'soich sadehu, a person goes down into his field, V'roya, and he sees te'eno shebikeira, he sees a fig that has begun to emerge, Eshkol shebike, or a cluster of grapes that has begun to emerge, Rimon shebike, or a pomegranate that has begun to emerge. And the Bartanura says at this point that the fruit that we're talking about here is far from being ripe, and it's far from being actually called a pri. Certainly, for all other halachas of ola, neta, ravoya, anything else, it's not called pri, and it's not yet called ripe enough. But as far as Biכורים is concerned, the pasuk tells us in Parshas Kisavai, Va'ata, and now, Hinei hevesi es reishis pri ha'adama. Behold, I am bringing the first fruit of the land. And he uses a lashon, Hinei hevesi, I'm bringing. At the time that I bring it to the Beis HaMikdash, yes, then it has to be a pri. Then it has to be fully ripe. But at the time I designate it, that doesn't have to be yet called a pri. That's not yet in the stage where it needs to be ripe, and therefore you can designate Biכורים even before it's ripened. Once heard a vod, a moedige vod. Why does the Mishnah dafka use these three fruit of te'ena, eshkol, and rimon? A fig, a grape, and a pomegranate. We know that Biכורים can be bought from all the Shevas Hamina. Why does it pick these three? Remember the story of the Meraglim in Pasha Shlach Lecha. The Meraglim, the spies who went to Eretz Yisrael, and they spoke Lashon Hara about Eretz Yisrael, and they brought back with them certain produce with which they used to speak Lashon Hara against the country, against Eretz Yisrael. What they brought back from Eretz Yisrael was three specific things. They brought back a fig, they brought back a cluster of grapes, and they brought back a pomegranate. The same three things mentioned in our Mishnah. Those three things which they used to speak Lashon Hara against Eretz Yisrael, for which they were kofui toiv against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Instead of having gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they showed a lack of gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We take those same three things, and we mention those same three things in our Mishnah, which is a tikkun for the chet of the Meraglim, which we now take to show our hakaras hatov to the Rebbeinu Shalom, that He's given us the land, that He's given us produce, and we are proud and happy to be able to bring this to the Beis HaMikdash. Okay, so returning now to the words of our Mishnah, the farmer goes down to his field and he sees these things ripening, koishroi v'gemi. So the first thing he does is he ties it with a reed in order that he'll be able to identify it later on as to which one of his produce was the Biכורים. V'oimer, and he says, at the time now, Harei elu Biכורים. He designates these fruit which have just started to emerge to be his Biכורים. V'Reb Shimon oimer, Reb Shimon says, Af al pi kein, nevertheless, even though he has already declared them as Biכורים now, Chayzer v'koira oisam Biכורים, he has to reassign them again as Biכורים, me'acha sheyitolshu min hakarka, after he detaches them from the ground. He says it's not sufficient to call them Biכורים at the time they're attached. In fact, calling the Biכורים at the time they're attached is nothing. It doesn't help you at all. You must designate them as Biכורים after you have detached them from the ground. Why? He learns this from a pasuk again in Parshas Kisavai. The pasuk says, "V'lokachta mereishis kol pri ha'adama asher tovi." You should take from the first fruit of your land that you will bring, asher tovi. So you see that there's a connection in the pasuk from the v'lokachta at the beginning of the pasuk, which is the taking, the designating of the fruit, and asher tovi at the end of the pasuk, which is the bringing of the fruit. And he says that just like when you bring the fruit to the Beis HaMikdash, it has to be fully ripe and it has to be detached. So too, when you designate it, it has to be fully ripe and it has to be detached.